it's just going to be really bad for you if you bring staph or ringworm into a gym. It's going to be hard for people to forgive you, or at least for them to not think you're a dumb asshole.
What's the most efficient path to victory against this particular opponent?
He's dropping off for the choke here. We could see the finish. It's looking tight. Tight at Alpra.
Hey guys, welcome to the Essential Jiu Jitsu Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kwan. The Essential Jiu Jitsu Podcast is everything you need to know about Jiu Jitsu. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed last week's episode. We discussed the best way learning BJJ with Greg Souders and a lot of interesting feedback from that episode. Of course, his comments on the gi angered a lot of the gi pundits. Some Instagram comments like, this guy clearly is too stupid to understand the gi and whatnot. I assure you that's not it. But a lot of good positive feedback as well. A lot of people embracing that approach, reaching out to me and letting me know that they've been trying these so-called games at their club as well. And I find a lot of merit in the ecological approach. I really enjoy it. I'll talk a little bit more about it later on in the show. But before we get started on today's episode, I would like to just remind you to like, share, subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast. If you can leave comments, it really helps the algorithm. And if you'd like to support the show, please check out the links at the bottom of the page. All right. So BJJ for beginners. So this episode is kind of geared towards like anyone who is thinking about doing a jiu-jitsu class, or maybe they're a couple weeks in or a month in. Kind of like a guidebook, things that I would recommend through my journey that I wish I had known from the beginning, and hopefully some information that can help you prevent some awkward moments. Okay. So first of all, starting jiu-jitsu is not easy. It is, you're undergoing a huge skill, something that, you know, if you really want to be serious about, it takes a lifetime worth of study. And everyone's going to go into jiu-jitsu with different goals and different ideas, different visions as to where they see their jiu-jitsu journey going. Some people want to be competitors. Some people want to get their black belt. Some people just want to get some exercise. Okay. Some people get into it because they wanted to put their kids into a martial art, and then they kind of got dragged in by osmosis, right? So I think it's really important that whoever is the practitioner to sort of really assess what your goal is in jiu-jitsu. Okay, if you're a recreational guy and you just want to go in and make friends and, you know, get some exercise or learn self-defense, those are all great reasons to do it. And maybe you get in for those reasons and then you realize, holy shit, I'm addicted to this. I fucking love this. I have to keep training. And before you know it, you're training every single day and not seeing your wife as much and making her very upset. And, you know, and then you want to compete maybe, or maybe like me, you decide you're going to make a career switch one day and open an academy. Thing I like about jiu-jitsu is it's such an incredible journey that never really ends. And, it can take you in so many different directions. And you'll meet a lot of fantastic people in jiu-jitsu. I find jiu-jitsu, just as certain people are repelled from the idea of doing jiu-jitsu, a lot of the same like-minded people are attracted to jiu-jitsu. And so I find that through my jiu-jitsu journey, I meet a lot of like-minded practitioners, just like me. Similar beliefs, similar thought processes, and similar values and logic. So it kind of takes a crazy person to want to go to a padded room every day and roll around with dudes and get crushed and get their face cranked, you know, get their skin scuffed and scratched and get suffocated and do it over and over again and make friends with these people. Not everyone is into that, and I understand that. And yeah, let's get right to it. So first of all, picking a gym. You know, you have decided, okay, I want to try a jiu-jitsu class. Maybe you saw UFC and you saw Joe Rogan talk about it. Maybe you heard about it on a podcast, or maybe you saw your favorite celebrity is getting into jiu-jitsu and you said, what's that? I want to see what that's all about. Okay. For me, it was a book that one of my roommates brought in on jiu-jitsu. It was Eddie Bravo and Joe Rogan. Started looking at it and thinking, hey, this is kind of cool shit. It's like pro wrestling, but it's actually real. And then we started watching UFC and seeing jiu-jitsu work live. You see a stunning submission. It's very, very similar to seeing a fantastic knockout, right? It really is. There's a mystique around submission holds. It's like magic. And the human bodies tend to fit together perfectly in this wonderful, chaotic martial art, right? And before you know it, someone's arm is getting broken or someone's getting put to sleep. And what can't be denied about jiu-jitsu is its effectiveness and its efficiency. And that's really what drawed me to it. I was like, holy shit, like if I need to learn a martial art, this is the one I should be learning, right? So you decided you wanted to do jiu-jitsu, and now it's time to pick a gym. I'm going to recommend that you do your research when you pick a gym. There's a lot of gyms out there, I should say, not all gyms are created equal. And jiu-jitsu has become very popular in the last 10 to 15 years. Since I started, there's so many more jiu-jitsu gyms now than there were before. The sport has grown immensely over the last decade. And there's a pretty good chance that whatever city you're in, that there's going to be multiple jiu-jitsu schools that you can train at. So which one are you going to pick? Most commonly, people will go based on Google reviews. And I know that as a gym owner, Google reviews are a huge benefit to me. I actually have a really good Google review section, and it brings me a lot of leads. So people will look at the top gym that is rated on Google. People will look at what gym is closest to them. Sometimes they'll look at prices, okay? Although I think you should never select a gym based upon the cost of the price. But that being said, that does not mean that the most expensive gym is the best gym, okay? I think that definitely should compare prices, but really you should be looking at the meat and potatoes of the academy you're looking at, and you should really be paying attention to things like who is the instructor that teaches there? Are there any high-level competitors there? And also really understand, again, your own goals. If you are someone who just wants to go somewhere and learn some self-defense and get a sweat, it's not really a big deal, okay? You could go potentially anywhere and achieve those things. That being said, my mindset is if I'm going to be doing something like jiu-jitsu where I'm committing, hours every day or hours every week to an activity, and I'm paying a lot of money to do it, and this is going to be a long-term thing, for me, I always want the best results for the minimal amount of time, okay? How fast can I get good at jiu-jitsu in the shortest amount of time? And if it's cost effective, great. So just make sure that you're looking at who is involved in the instruction at the academy. Research the instructors in your area and compare them. Do they have competition credentials? Do they have content on YouTube? Do they have stuff on social media that you can check out beforehand? I think that that's a really, really important thing. And also, if you're serious about jiu-jitsu, let's say now you want to go into jiu-jitsu and you like, okay, I want to be a competitor. Like this is something I want to do. I want to be a black belt one day. I want to compete. You're definitely going to want to go to gyms that are more serious, gyms that have instructors who have competed before and been on the big stage before. That is really, really important. And you'll notice too, usually I would say beginners won't notice this right away, but as you go through your journey and as you meet people in the community, you're going to see that certain gyms have a lot of really great competitors and other gyms might have no competitors, okay? And I don't think any's right or wrong. For me, I know I would rather train at a higher level gym because I'm paying this money and giving the time and whatnot. But you have to ask yourself, what are your goals? If you're very recreational and you don't really care about, getting your black belt and being a world-class black belt, you just care about coming in, getting your 40 visits and getting your next promotion, you're probably not going to care where you go. Okay. So you really have to ask yourself, what are my goals? Be realistic. What do I want to get out of jiu-jitsu? And that will help you choose an academy. Okay. Understand the culture of the gym as well. So what I mean by culture is like, is it a recreational gym? Is it a competitive gym? Is it a gym geared towards families? Okay. This is, again, you can only really acquire this information by visiting these schools and training there. So that kind of brings me to the next thing, which would be to do free trial classes if you can. I offer a free week at my academy. I know some gyms only offer a free class. Okay. It's going to depend where you go. But if you're looking for a place to train jiu-jitsu, I think it's really important that you try as many free trials as you can. When I get someone who comes into my gym for a free trial, I always tell them, hey, go check out this gym down the street. This gym is 10 minutes down the road. Go check them out. There's another gym 20 minutes away. Go check them out. I always try to tell my new leads to go try these other gyms because I'm confident in my product. I think my product sells itself. I know how much I dedicate myself to jiu-jitsu, so I'm confident in my instruction and in my knowledge. And I want people to come in to know, hey, like, I have confidence compared to gyms in the area, and you should go shop around. There's no mysteries here. This isn't a place where you're not going to be able to go anywhere else. Okay. That's my personal opinion. I know some instructors don't like their students training at other places, but I always recommend go do some free trials, go check out the places in the city. I would also recommend, because a lot of people are coming from day jobs. Often they have a commute. Okay. Consider commute being a factor as well in selecting your gyms. There might be a gym down the road that's 5 minutes away, but their level's really, really low. And then there might be a gym 20 to 25 minutes away, but the level's really, really high. In my opinion, I think it's going to be worth the commute, if within the span of 20 to 30 minutes to go to a much better school if you have the choice. And that's because in the long run, if you compare this 10 years down the road, if your skill has acquired to a much higher level in that 10 years because you did that commute, in my opinion, that's worth it. But again, everyone's got their own goals and their life with, managing work and loved ones and whatnot. So only you can decide what is the best balance for you. Okay. I'm just always going to put the quality of the training first, in my opinion. All right. So also be aware of like cult behavior. So, this is kind of like a cliche, and gyms like Gracie Barra often get thrown under the bus for this. And that's because they do cult shit. A lot of the time they will, they force their students to buy their uniforms, and quite often their uniforms are not cheap. It's not like they're getting a discount uniform. Often they'll be paying over $200 for a uniform. You come to no-gi class, you got to wear their no-gi kit. You got to wear their gis, all their gear. Now, I don't enforce that at my gym. I sell all this gear at my gym, but I do not enforce it. You can wear anything you want in my gym. We're very relaxed that way. And I see the benefit in making people wear uniforms that all match. It does sort of look more clean. I guess it does kind of create a team environment, maybe you could argue. But for me, I kind of like the personal expression of the individual. So I believe that forcing your students to buy your gear, even though it's a great way to make money off them, it is cult behavior. Okay. Another example of cult behavior would be like the instructor abusing their power and trying to fuck, the women that are at the gym, things like that. If your instructor or the team of instructors is constantly hitting on and dating all the students, I think that is kind of inappropriate cult behavior. Another example of cult behavior would be, like I mentioned earlier, your instructor doesn't like you cross training and getting around into gyms in the area. Okay. I don't really love when my students go and train in other gyms, but I understand why they would. Okay. I did the same thing. When I was in the lower ranks, I wanted to train at different gyms because you get different things from different gyms. And I don't blame my students if they go cross train somewhere else. Honestly, that's fine. And if they can gain knowledge from that visit where they went to a different gym and bring it back to me, that's an added bonus. Okay. I would recommend, just for instructors, to not be territorial over your students, because your students aren't your property. Okay. It's a free market. They're paying you money. They're not obligated to represent you or to be on your team, forever. If you want them on your team, you need to give them a good reason to want to be on your team, right? You got to give them a reason to stick around, give them a reason to be loyal to you. They don't owe you anything and you don't own them. So That's another big one, is how does your instructor feel about cross training? And these are things that you can only really learn once you start going to a gym. So you do kind of have to get your feet wet and, again, try the different gyms in the area. All right. I also recommend, just as a side note, wherever you go in your jiu-jitsu journey, is consider networking yourself within the jiu-jitsu community. Okay. That is super important, that you try to have a presence in the community. If you go to tournaments, whether you're competing or not, or you're supporting teammates, or you just want to be there, or you want a corner, you want a referee. Okay. If you, becoming a referee, I've spoken about this in the past. Becoming a referee is a really good way that you can push yourself if you have a business in jiu-jitsu, and just to gain exposure in the community. People start to see you, they see your face at every tournament, they start to see who you are, shake your hand, okay, and everyone sort of learns from each other. You learn opportunities to, you might learn business opportunities that didn't previously exist. You might get opportunities to train with different people at different places. You have a fight with someone, and after you're shaking hands, you're saying, "Hey man, great fight, we should train sometime." Happens all the time. And I think that that's a really important thing when you're starting in jiu-jitsu, is understand that there is an entire network of jiu-jitsu outside of your gym. And not every city is the same. Not every jiu-jitsu community is the same. Here in Vancouver, it's a pretty open community, and I'm quite fortunate to be a part of that. And we like it like that. But there are some gyms that are very closed off. They don't really participate in the local tournaments. So understand that, you might be at a gym, and quite honestly, a lot of time it's like Gracie Barra, where they want you to just stay within their walls. Okay. They don't want you to go out and do other tournaments. They want you to do the GB CompNet tournaments or whatever. They don't want you supporting other events or training at other gyms. They want to just keep you in their gym, your teammates are your teammates. But you have to understand is there's a whole other community out there outside of your gym that might have a great bunch of people and great opportunities and opportunities to improve. So one thing that I wish I could tell myself when I first started is understand that this gym that I'm settling in is not the only gym, and there's a lot of other great jiu-jitsu out there, and you kind of need to shop around and experience it before you really make a full commitment. Okay. And I would say, don't feel that just because you went to the first, or you signed up for the first gym you tried at, don't feel that you have to stay with that team. I've been through a couple team changes in my journey. I've inherited people who have come from other gyms and left for different reasons. And I've lost students that have left to other gyms for different reasons. And don't feel that you are obligated to be connected to one gym just because you pay a monthly payment automatically off your credit card. There's no reason to stick around if it's not working for you. If you feel that there's a gym out there that can offer you better training, and have an honest conversation with your instructor about it. They might take it well. They might be immature about it. It is what it is. And at the end of the day, it's your money, it's your time, it's your resources. You should do what's best for your journey and your family. Okay. So kind of do need to be selfish a little bit to some degree. So what to learn first? You're a beginner. All right. The jiu-jitsu is a giant subject. What are you going to learn first? I think it's really important to understand the basic history of jiu-jitsu, how jiu-jitsu, first originated in Japan, why it was created, hand-to-hand combat on the field of battle when you lose your weapon, etc., all that shit. And how it sort of migrated to Brazil, and then how it migrated to the States. And now the basic understanding. Do you need to know all the names and things like that? Not really, but you probably will learn just if you submerge yourself in jiu-jitsu. And also to understand how BJJ fits into an actual fight or an MMA fight. What is the role of jiu-jitsu? Why is it effective? How is it not effective? Like sometimes you're watching MMA and it's like the two fighters, their jiu-jitsu's canceling each other out and not much happens on the ground. And then other times you'll see, crazy submissions happen out of nowhere. How does BJJ fit into real fights? And how could you use it to a real fight? And how could you also not use it to save yourself from getting your ass kicked? Because I do think a lot of BJJ guys tend to think that BJJ is this superpower, and I'm guilty of this too. And we think that, if we get into a fight that we're going to be able to just like throw up a triangle on the guy. It's not always that easy. Yes, there is effectiveness to it, but like we have to be realistic and understand that yes, we're learning jiu-jitsu in a context of a padded room under a sport rule set, most likely, and that we still don't want to be fucking around on the street if we get caught there. Okay, this next thing, and this is going to be much to the chagrin of Greg Souders. My personal opinion, I think you should do gi and no gi, and I've always done both. I've always enjoyed both. And I'm one of those guys who thinks that they're, one can complement the other, because at the end of the day, it is all jiu-jitsu. That being said, there's guys like Gordon Ryan who only trains no gi. And he really has kind of disproven the whole, you need to train both to be a master of one. The truth is nowadays is you really don't need to. Okay. I recommend it because I believe that they're both beautiful sports. They're both related. They're the same sport essentially, but we're talking about a completely different set of skills, and the systems will be different. I always use the analogy I'm Canadian, right? Ice hockey versus foot hockey. Same game, but completely different, not rule set, but completely different skill set required to excel in both games, In a foot hockey situation, there's no coasting. You're constantly running, and therefore the way that you handle the ball will change. And the way when you shoot the ball, you can't just stop skating and coast as you're shooting. You have to run. So this is very, very difficult, much more difficult than it sounds. Plus, you're using a ball. You're not using a puck, right? So there's so many things that are different between the two. And gi and no gi, I find quite comparable in that way. The gi fight looks very different from a no gi fight. Okay, and like Greg Souders said, he just wishes the gi would go away. He wishes he never did the gi, and he regrets ever doing gi. I'm not that guy. I love the gi. I think it's much harder. I'm not as good at it, but I still love it nonetheless. And I think any beginner coming through, I always encourage them to do both. Okay, all jiu-jitsu is good jiu-jitsu, and I truly do believe that it is that yin and yang that kind of makes a holistic approach to jiu-jitsu if you do both. But again, I know a lot of people will disagree with that, especially nowadays. In terms of content, what should we be learning? I agree with Gordon and Danaher when they talk about learn pin escapes, learn submission escapes first, because this will, kind of give you the confidence to attack from bad positions. It'll give you the confidence to play guard. One thing I always see is certain practitioners, it could be kids, it could be adults, they love to be on top, they hate to be on the bottom. So they never pull guard because they always just envision themselves being on top in a fight. You got to understand that there's going to be times where you end up on the bottom. You go against someone who doesn't want to pull guard. They want to take you down and they have better standing skills than you. You might end up on the floor. You're going to find yourself getting swept sometimes. It's just going to happen and you're going to be on the bottom position. So I always recommend that my students build a foundation of jiu-jitsu from the ground up, where they are comfortable pulling guard in any situation, playing a variety of different guards, and understand how guards lead to paths of victory, sweeps, submissions, whatever. I think pin escapes, submissions, and guard work is really the foundation of what jiu-jitsu should be, and for the beginner. And then from there, we kind of build out. We start playing on top. We start doing guard passing. We start doing offensive movements. We start doing takedown submissions, etc. Right? So I always recommend guys build from the bottom up. Now, I also think beginners can develop a lot of their game by doing just core movements and often solo movements. And again, this is probably gonna, Greg Souders, if he ever heard this, would be like, yeah, it's a complete waste of time, right? But I do believe there's merit in solo movements, especially when you're a beginner or if you are children doing jiu-jitsu. So doing things like inversions, shrimps, Granbys, reverse shrimping, bridging, different types of hip shovels, all different types of movements that you can do solo, I find very beneficial because you're training yourself how to control your body. And the more you learn how to control your body, the more aware you become of your body and the more effective you're going to be in a grappling situation. I remember hearing Cyborg say, because I know he does a lot of movement drills. He talked about how if I'm going to control someone else's body, I need to be a master of controlling my own body first. And I think there's wisdom in that. So it's really important to know how to invert upside down, okay? It's really important to learn how to do a perfect knee elbow escape, things like this. These can all be practiced solo. So core movements of jiu-jitsu, very, very important, very low-hanging fruit, I believe, for the beginner. Understand the game of jiu-jitsu. So there are a couple of rule sets that would dominate the jiu-jitsu climate as it is. So you got like the IBJJF unified rules, ADCC rules, EBI sub-only rules. Okay, these are like the main ones. And I think pretty much every beginner should probably start with the IBJJF rule set. As much as I hate to say that, I think the IBJJF rule set is the kind of the universal jiu-jitsu rules, okay? Nowadays, ADCC, again, getting super, super popular. If you are primarily a no-gi grappler, definitely got to learn the ADCC rules, right? And then understand, why would we want to learn these rules? Understand that these rules kind of lead us towards certain goals when we're rolling, okay? How we can prevent our partner from scoring on us, how we can get our score on our partner, how we can sort of out-strategize our partner. A lot of this comes from our understanding of the game of jiu-jitsu. So learning the rules, don't wait until you're later on in the colored belts like I did. Invest in that early. YouTube, they have the IBJJF tutorials channels. I'm always pushing that shit. I think it's a great channel, and it'll really just help people understand. And it'll also just, as you're learning how to choke people out and how to pass guard and sweep and all this stuff, you're also doing this like mental work in your head. You're doing these mental exercises. Oh, I know in this position I can score, but from this position I can't score. Like, it's just extra thinking while you're under pressure and problem solving. I think it just makes you a better grappler overall. All right. And okay, this one's really important for any beginner, any kids as well. I always see this issue in kids class. Learn how to be a good uke. First of all, understand what an uke is. Uke, the training partner, person receiving the technique. When it's your turn to be uke, I always tell the kids, it's your job to make your training partner look good. That's really, really important to understand, because if you're not a good uke, people are not going to want to train with you. They're not going to want to drill with you. You're not going to be helping your partners as much, and you're not going to get as much out of your training. If you're a good uke, you are constantly considering the resistance and the reactions you're going to be giving your opponent who's doing these moves on you. So just because it's not your turn to do the move, if you're drilling or whatever, just because it's not your turn doesn't mean you can't get better, okay? But if you don't know how to hold your posture or your stance at all in these situations, you're definitely not going to be making your partner better or yourself better. So learn how to be a good uke. Usually the guidelines I give, like I said, make your partner look good, but adopt a stance that is rigid enough to not just fall over, but not so rigid that your partner can't execute the technique. We're talking about just drills here, okay? Again, sorry, Greg. I think there is some merit in drills. But definitely, like, if you are the uke, if your instructor calls you out to demonstrate a move and you're the one that they want to demonstrate on, don't make an ass out of yourself or the instructor. Make your instructor look good, give good reactions, and sort of drill as if you were fighting, but again, not so rigid that you completely shut your partner down too, because that's another thing I see sometimes with people who are just unaware. You try and demonstrate a move and they're almost like canceling you out as you're trying to do it. And you're like, actually, fucker, you're supposed to let me do this move right now and you're not letting me do it, So learning how to be a good uke, very, very important. Okay, this is for anyone. Study outside of class time. If you start jiu-jitsu and you get the jiu-jitsu bug, you're going to need to study outside to get to even a higher level. And if you're really passionate, this is usually not too difficult to do, but just understand, like I've said in previous episodes, mental preparation is highly underutilized. Again, it's not as valuable as physical preparation, I would say. Nothing compares to doing an activity with your own body physically, but mental study, you can gain so much from instructionals, in my opinion, free content on Instagram, YouTube, etc. Definitely, try to make habits and outside of class time so that you can exercise your brain as well, especially if you get injured or something like that. Okay. Ask questions, listen to others, watch the higher ranks at your academy and sort of see what do they do well, and ask yourself, how can I mimic what they do? How can I copy the good things they do? Maybe like Larry over there, he's got like a really good De La Riva guard. I like what he does when he has De La Riva guard. Man, people can't seem to pass this guy's open guard. Like, watch what he does. Pick his brain when you get a chance. You see someone in the gym who does something well, try to absorb that from them. And then over time, you will absorb their game and you will make them become better because you'll use their game against them and they will have to adapt. And that's sort of how jiu-jitsu grows. The culture of jiu-jitsu grows inside of an academy. People start canceling each other out and learning each other's tricks, right? And then you're forced to evolve. And even though it's kind of difficult for a beginner to do this, I would say as early as you can, try to pay attention to the things that you need to do better. So if you're constantly getting your guard passed, if there's a training partner in the room who's constantly catching you in the same submission, or is constantly passing your guard the same way, you got to ask yourself, why is that happening? Like, where did I go wrong? And that said person is continuously hitting me with the same move. I'm making the same mistake over and over again. You might even want to go to them and say, hey, Bob, it's the most boring jiu-jitsu names ever, Larry and Bob. Hey, Bob, how do you keep doing this to me? Like, what? And they might just have a simple answer. Oh, well, that's because you're not framing here when you should be, or you're letting me break this grip here. And then you'll find, there's a solution to every problem, right? So always sort of do that self-critique and ask yourself, what things am I not doing well? And how can I make them better? Who can I talk to make these things better? All right. So, and the next topic, start thinking in systems. So again, jiu-jitsu is a game of systems at the end of the day. What is a system? So I have a dictionary description here, or a definition, I should say. It's system, a set of things working together as parts of a mechanism or an interconnecting network. Or another great definition, a set of principles or procedures according to which something is done, an organized framework or method. So I think that these are really good definitions, and that's what we're looking at when we're talking about jiu-jitsu. Is we're talking about multiple systems that we are basically connecting or hopping from system to system, trying to get to more dominant positions and hopefully get to a position where we can actually finish our partner. So you might have a Kimura control on someone, and then from the Kimura you attack an armbar or a triangle, or now you have like an armbar triangle, right? Or maybe you use the Kimura to get to the back. You're jumping from system to system, and just understand how these systems kind of fit together. How can I enter a system from different positions? And then once I'm there, how can I join that system to other systems? If I have to exit a system, what are my options? Can I exit a system gracefully one system to the other, but still dominate the offensive cycle, still manage control over my partner? Like, everyone's going to have their own Tokui waza, which is essentially your favorite techniques, right? Some people will gravitate towards Kimuras right away. Some people will go to arm bars or triangles right away. All right. Think about what you're good at and try and develop what you're good at. And you're going to find that that's going to change, almost on a monthly basis in your jiu-jitsu journey. You keep training for years and years and years. You're going to go down the line and realize I went through a lot of favorite moves. I went through phases. For me, my first favorite move was arm bars. Now I really love, I've been doing leg locks for years. I love all submission systems. I love Kimuras. I love triangles, and it's changed over the years as I've accrued more and more experience, gained more knowledge. I don't really have a Tokui waza anymore. I love all of the systems. I try and be as well-rounded as possible. Okay. Think also about, so there's an idea that I learned from culinary arts. I've talked about it on BJJ Mental Models before, and that's the idea of critical control points. So what a critical control point is in the culinary arts is it's a range of temperatures that you want to keep food out of to prevent the growth of pathogens. So if I were to cook a soup, if I let that soup hang out at like lukewarm temperature for hours, the chances of pathogenic bacteria growing increase. So I want it quickly take a soup, cool it down as quickly as I can, get it out of that, quote, danger zone position. And that's what they call critical control points when you're preparing food, okay? In jiu-jitsu, I use the term critical control points when we're discussing control using systems. So if I'm using a Kimura system, really what I'm looking to do is gain internal rotation of my partner's shoulder. I'm pushing the wrist down and I'm pulling the elbow open. I know if I can get their elbow away from their body while pushing the wrist down, I'll probably be able to go anywhere with that. I'll be able to take their back. I'll be able to join with arm bars and triangles and all different types of things, right? So ask yourself, what are the critical control points for the system I'm using? I'll give you a classic example, okay? Let's say you have a arm bar position, but you have a Kimura grip. So standard arm bar, you're on top, Juji Gatame, but with a Kimura grip. Normally, if you didn't have a Kimura, the critical control point would be done with your legs. You'd be pinching your knees together, pulling your heels in, and gaining wedges around your partner's shoulders and head. And that is what prevents them from slipping their elbow and freeing themselves of the arm bar and getting back to safety. Now, if you have a Kimura arm bar grip, the control points no longer rely on your legs. Because of the internal rotation of the Kimura control, you can actually move your legs into different positions. Maybe you're going to switch into different triangle positions, Yoko Senkaku, or I don't know, just front triangles. You can move your legs around now because your Kimura control is the critical control point. So I recommend that as you are developing your systems as a beginner, you might not even realize it's a system. You might think of the Kimura as a submission, which it is, but it's more importantly a control system. There's a lot more to a Kimura than just finishing someone with a Kimura, right? As you all know, we can do a lot of different things with that. So when I'm learning a Kimura, I want to think, okay, what are going to be those main key points that prevent my partner from escaping the Kimura? How can I make sure that their arm is always pulled out and away from their body, getting that push-pull shearing force with the Kimura? And then if I'm going to jump from a Kimura to the back, what are the critical control points that allow me to retain the back? If I have a Kimura control and at the same time I'm attacking Yoko Senkaku and my partner's on their side, and I'm simultaneously threatening the dilemma between triangle and Kimura, I can know that I can let go of the Kimura as long as I have my legs wrapped around my partner's head and arm, right? But if I feel like I'm starting to lose the triangle position, I have to go back to the Kimura, right? There's always got to be a submission system in play, and always consider what are the critical control points of these systems. Essentially, what about the mechanics of the system makes it effective? That's really what I'm talking about here. So consider these things when we're developing our systems-based approach. Another thing is, just the Kaizen mindset. Kaizen mindset, I've talked about it a lot. It's just the idea of building good habits to better improve systems over extended periods of time, right? How can you make yourself better? Creating habits. Watching the people in your gym that are really good specialists at certain systems, watch what they do. Try and always learn more. Try to always, every day, learn a little bit more. Every day, add something to your game. That is super, super important. And take notes if you need to. Personally, I'm not really much of a note taker. I'm not going to say I never do it, but I know it helps a lot of people to take notes. And another great thing that I've always found really gifted athletes, really gifted students in jiu-jitsu, what they like to do is as soon as they learn something, they always ask themselves, like, how am I going to defeat this? So I have kids in my program where as soon as I show them a move, they're already trying to prevent the move. As they're drilling it, they're thinking, what would I be doing to shut this down? I think that that's really important when you're developing systems to think about what defeats this and how can I counter that, right? And how can I counter that counter and so on, so on. What are the common mistakes? What can go wrong when I try and do this system? What are some of the most common fuck-ups that are going to happen when I'm trying to throw a Kimura on someone? Or what are the most common defenses that we're going to get? How is this technique defeated? These are all things that I think are really important to consider when you're learning something new. Especially as a beginner, you're gathering new information, you're learning a new system. Ask yourself from the start, what's going to defeat this system? All right, so now let's say you're at your first class. Let's talk about the first class. It's scary to go, first of all, anywhere new. But when you're surrounded in a room full of people that know how to do something and you don't know how to do it, it can be very intimidating walking in, no stripes on your white belt, walking in brand new. Everyone's looking at the fresh meat and thinking, oh yeah, I can't wait to roll with this guy. He's not going to know anything. Right. And we're all guilty of it. We all see people walk in for their first class and we're just like, oh man, you're gonna have to embrace the suck for a while before things get better. And this is just the truth. It's scary to go into a jiu-jitsu class, and it's normal if you're a beginner to go into a jiu-jitsu class intimidated. Let's first talk about etiquette. So be on time. Okay, try not to walk in late if you're new. If you do have to be late, talk to your instructor beforehand. Say, hey, is this okay? There's going to be issues. There's going to be conflicting schedules and I might be a couple minutes late. And usually there's not an issue. Okay. But try to be on time. Try to come to the gym as if you are going on a date. So, always showered, trim your nails because no one likes to get scratched, clean gear. Make sure that you're not walking into the gym with dirty gear or gear that you've worn before. Doesn't matter how dirty it got in the last session. Make sure that your gear is clean. Nobody wants to train with someone who has trained in dirty gear, and make sure that you are showering right after practice to prevent things like ringworm, staph. Okay. Definitely don't come to the gym with ringworm or staph. That is a really good way to get yourself hated by everyone. If you don't know what ringworm or staph is, just Google it. Okay. These are kind of the two main infections that you might get in the gym, and you will be hated if you bring that to the gym. Okay. You will be probably publicly mocked and castrated. So definitely don't be coming to the gym with any infections. Always check your skin for rashes, lesions, and do your part to prevent the spread of these things because it's very, very contagious. For those of you just listening, it's just my cat getting in my fucking face. All right. So, be polite and be fun to be around. So this is, some people struggle with this. Not everyone's good at fitting in. And just like the new kid at high school, you kind of have to fit in when you go to a jiu-jitsu class. Make sure that you're someone who is light, fun to be around. Don't be afraid to joke. Don't feel like you need to be the quiet person in the corner. It's totally fine to open up to your new training partners, but just try and fit in quietly. Try and, work hard. Don't complain when things are hard. Try your best. Even if you suck, if you try your best, you'll gain the respect of other people. And yeah, just do your best to be a friendly person first. And once you sort of get to know people, maybe if you have like a crude sense of humor like me, you can start to open up with them a little bit more and actually gain some real meaningful friendships and relationships. All right. Here's what you should do. Be friendly. Try to fit in quietly. Don't take losing personally. I can remember when I think I was a white belt or a blue belt. And I've mentioned on previous podcasts, I was like pretty decently talented right out of the gate when I started grappling. And I don't mean I'm hot shit. I just mean like compared to the other beginners in my class, I was able to like fuck them up pretty early. Okay. But I'm like nothing special. Right. So I remember at a class, I was rolling with this guy and man, it got so heated. He was coming at me so hard and, he was higher ranked. And I was able to catch him in a triangle. He actually had me on the wall trying to take me down, and I managed to throw my leg up and over his shoulder. So it was kind of like, I didn't jump into the armbar, but it was kind of like a falling, or into the triangle, but it was kind of like a falling triangle. And I hit this beautiful front triangle, tapped him out. And then after he got so pissed, he was like, I can't wait to do stand up with you, buddy. I'm like, stand up? What are you talking about? And then the class ends and kickboxing started right after. And he was expecting me to now put on my kickboxing gear. And I'm like, oh, I'm not a kickboxer, dude. I just do jiu-jitsu, right? But that was like a prime example of someone like taking loss personally and being like, oh, I can't wait to like punch you, which is kind of fucked up if you think about it. And I'll always remember that and be like, yeah, I remember when I caught that like almost nearly flying triangle on an MMA fighter against the wall, and he got so mad about it, right? And then I never saw that guy again, actually. So I don't know what happened to him, if he kept training. Probably not, because I never saw him again. All right. Always train safely and control your movements. So first of all, don't attempt anything that you saw on YouTube without ever knowing what you're doing. If you think you know a move, make sure that you stress test it first before you try and do it on your training partners, especially if you're brand new and you have no idea how that move works. Don't try anything you don't know or don't you haven't experimented with first. Maybe if you're a higher level, you can try new moves right off the gate and have some success. But like if you're brand new, you should never try a move that's going to result in you losing your balance and falling over. You should never at any point fall onto your training partners. That's just never going to be good for anyone, because that's how you hurt yourself or your training partners. And that's where I think solo movements come in play a lot. And even things like speed drills, you know, getting control of your body and being able to control your movements is a huge part of jiu-jitsu, and it will make you a better training partner if you have control of your base and you're not falling all over the place. And so, yeah, try not to be a spaz, right? Try not to just rely on attributes, because that's not really jiu-jitsu at the end of the day. And there's always going to be someone bigger and stronger and more athletic, right? What you should do also, embrace discomfort. So jiu-jitsu isn't comfortable when you're losing, and that's part of it, because at first you're likely not going to be winning very much. So get used to the idea of discomfort, get used to the idea of, you know, chest to chest pinning pressure, getting cross-faced, and really plan how you're going to get out using a methodical, intelligent approach. This is, I think, going to be the quickest way that you can go from getting smashed to now holding your own. Is always be critical and ask yourself, what can I do to improve? And really embrace that the fact that it's going to suck for a while. You know, don't wish for it to get way better. Take steps to make it better, right? Take steps to improve your skill. And just understand that is kind of the process of learning how to survive in a fight. And that's going to be part of it, is, you know, getting comfortable with these uncomfortable positions. And that mindset will help you. It will follow you through all different aspects of life. Okay. You know, you're at work and a challenging thing comes up, but you're okay because your stress levels are already, you know, well trained through jiu-jitsu, and you're able to just embrace that problem and get it done. So I find jiu-jitsu really benefits me in a lot of places in life, because I know how uncomfortable jiu-jitsu can be at times, and it gives me a lot of strength and confidence in other parts of life. Make sure that you pace yourself through your rounds. You definitely don't want to be gassing yourself out. One thing I can't stand is when someone goes 100% with me because they're brand new and they try and fuck me up as hard as they can. And they can go hard for about 2 minutes. And then after that, they get swept. And then they try and quit as if, oh, I'm out of breath now. And I always tell them, well, you were just trying to fucking murder me, and now you want to take a rest just because I got on top of you? Fuck no. You're going to have to sit here the whole round and just, you know, either eat this crossface or find a way to get your guard back, because you cannot be just going 100% on your partner 1 second and then the next second begging for mercy. That's not how a fight works. And that's not really how jiu-jitsu works. If anything, that's kind of disrespectful to your training partner to try and end the round early because things aren't going your way. So my recommendation is always operate at a pace that you can go a full round on. Or if you like to do 2 rounds in a row with particular training partners, I always do, make sure that you can go the full 2 rounds, right? Make sure you have energy in the tank. If you're gassing out, ask yourself, why did I gas out? Did I not prepare enough? Or is my conditioning not good enough? Do I need to lose weight? Am I smoking cigarettes and drinking? Do I keep making the same mistakes over and over against this training partner? Ask yourself, why am I gassing out, and how can I fix that? Because in an ideal world, you should be able to finish your rounds, get a quick drink of water, tie up your gi, and then go in again and do this repeatedly until class is done. That's an ideal situation, right? You know, have that beginner's mind, ask questions. Again, I already talked about observing people in the gym and try and copy what the good guys do, and you know, absorb new information, try to use the techniques that the instructor shows you. That's really important too. You know, don't just go to a gym and completely ignore what you're being taught. Sometimes that happens at my gym where people aren't using the techniques, or they're not even trying to use the techniques, and they just revert back to their old game, but it never evolves, right? But part of embracing discomfort is investing in loss and understanding that immediately at the gym, the training that you're getting might not be fun. It might not be comfortable because you're trying new shit. And when you're trying new shit, a lot of the time you get smashed and things go wrong and things fail. Okay. This is all part of learning a new system. So invest in loss and embrace the discomfort and keep trying the new things. And, there might be times when you want to stick to your A game, whether it's a competition or whatever, or, you have to go against like one of the best guys in the gym. You might say, okay, this round I got to play my A game. Otherwise I'm going to get smashed. I can't be experimenting against this guy. He's way too good. That's fine. Okay. But, definitely try to use new things that you learn, and find ways to contribute to your gym. If you can, offer to clean, offer to help. If you hear, another great thing is when we talk about networking is learn what occupations everyone has, because you might be able to exchange skills, trade skills. Maybe you're an electrician and you hear someone needs to get some wiring done or something. Hey, I can help you. I'm an electrician. Boom. Oh, well, I'm an accountant. I can help you with this. Or, I cut hair, whatever the fuck. It doesn't really matter. In this way, you can help each other out a lot, because so many skilled people go to jiu-jitsu. They're skilled in other aspects of life, and they're more than happy to do skill swaps. And this is a great way to kind of add a new currency to your life. Okay. And by just offering to help out around the gym, mopping the mats even, is such a nice gesture. And it really shows everyone, hey, like, I'm new here, but I'm a team player. I'm a nice guy. I'm trying to help out. I care about this place. I want to contribute. That's something I think a lot of people could do better. Let's talk about what not to do. Okay. So, don't train to win all the time. I'm not going to say never. If you're training for a competition, often training to win makes sense. But if you're trying to build skills and acquire skills, training to win is not really the goal. It's training to learn, right? So again, investing in loss, all that good stuff. Do not be spazzy or uncontrolled. We already talked about falling body weight. Probably the biggest contributor to injuries. Also understand what moves aren't legal. So if you're a white belt and you're in a gym and you pull a jump guard on someone and break their leg, I've actually seen this happen twice, not at my gym, but at previous gyms. I don't allow guard jumping in my gym because I'm not fucking stupid. But things like that, if you're training with someone who's not expecting a guard jump, you jump guard on them, and the rules say no jumping guard for white belts, and now this guy's got a broken leg, like, you're going to go down as that guy who broke that guy's leg. So don't do any moves that are uncontrolled, spazzy, illegal. Okay. If you're training in the gi and then you like throw a heel hook on a guy, he might look at you like, dude, really? What the fuck? And now he's forced to tap out. And, maybe you think, oh, I tapped this higher ranked guy. And it's like, no, I wasn't expecting the heel hook, and I wasn't expecting you to carry it all the way to completion. So I had to tap, but guess what? Now I'm going to fuck you up, right? Like, you got to be a little bit smarter. Again, it goes down to lines of understand the rules and don't do any moves that you don't understand. Okay. Or you don't do them in a situation where it's inappropriate. Okay. Don't go 100%. Especially if you're a beginner. Never go 100% if you're a beginner. That's a recipe for injury for either you or your training partner. There's no reason to go 100%. Again, this is all about skill acquisition. It's not about winning. So there's no fucking reason for you to go 100%. Don't do it. Only go 100% when you've acquired enough skills and confidence, and you trust your training partner enough that you're not going to hurt each other. Don't be doing it when you are a one stripe white belt. No one is impressed at how fast you go. No one is impressed at what you can do. You're a 1, 2, 0 stripe white belt. Just try to fit in and shut up and just train hard and try and help people and try not to hurt people, and people will like you. Basically, if you're a spaz and you're going 100%, you're trying to win, you're going to go down as that guy who rolls too hard. And we don't want to be that guy. Okay. Don't use attributes, youth, size, strength, speed. If you rely on attributes, you will deny yourself the ability to build skills. Plus, speed is not really the first thing you should be building. It should be technique, timing, tactics, mechanics, strategy. Once you have all those things down, we can now start talking about speed, okay? And you know what? There's a famous saying, I think it's Mark Coleman who said it, strength is a skill. Yes, that is true, actually. And strength does matter. Size does matter, which means you should not use it, okay? However, let's say I'm going with a training partner who is the same size as me. We're both very high level. We're both good training partners. We know each other. Absolutely use your strength and speed. That's totally fine, okay? If winning is the goal, it makes total sense to do it. But if you're a beginner, people aren't going to like that, and it's going to stifle your growth. So try to avoid using attributes. Try to focus instead on skill acquisition and technical ability and acquiring technique. Okay. All right. This is the what if guy, right? So the what if guy is the guy who, when the professor says, okay, any questions? He says, okay, but what if this happens? But what about this? But what if that? But couldn't I just do that? I'm not going to say this guy is hated because usually he's just blissfully ignorant, but the what if guy, the truth is there's always something that can be done. There's always a counter to any move. And so the what if guy could just be saying, what if till the cows come home? Just repeatedly, what if, well, what if this, what if this, what if this? Okay. I think there is valid in asking like one what if question. Okay. But if just saying, oh, I would just do this, or, oh, I would just do this. It's like, yeah, you could just do that, but you might not, you might not. So what's the point of even saying it? I show you a move. That doesn't mean that there's no counters to this move. There's always a way to shut this move down. There's always a way to counter this move. Just saying what if, as if you're trying to get some kind of intellectual high ground over someone, like you like a gotcha, or oh, I've solved your mystery. No, that's not really what it's about. Okay, every technique can be taken apart. Every technique can be countered. So don't be the what if guy. If you're legitimately asking, like, well, what if I do this? Okay, and it's like one move that you really like to do. That's not the end of the world. That's okay. But just say, well, I would just do this. Well, I would just shut your technique down by doing this. It's like, again, stay in your lane. You're brand new. Okay. You need to know how much you don't know, and just chill. Just try to do the technique, and then ask yourself in your mind, okay, well, if I was going to take this apart, I would do this. I would do this. Don't be the what if guy. All right. This one also, the last thing, what not to do. Don't leave a mess behind. I get so many fucking water bottles at my gym. I don't understand. People leaving water bottles, people leaving gear. They leave gear sweaty in a crumpled heap off to the side of the mats. And now I'm like, okay, what do you want me to do with this? Do you want me to leave this here and just marinate in your own filth and just get more and more bacteria and get more stinky? Or do you want me to take it home and do your laundry and bring it back? Or should I just throw it in the fucking garbage? Okay, these are things that every gym owner goes through literally every night. I've had people leave car keys at the gym. I don't know how they do that. I've had people leave shoes at the gym. I don't know how that happens. Gym bags, dirty gear, dirty geese. Here's what I do. If someone leaves something at the gym, if it's underwear, I throw it out immediately. If it's a rash guard, if it stinks, I throw it out immediately. Otherwise, if it's a gi or if it doesn't seem to smell too bad, I'll take it home and I'll wash it, and I'll tell them personally, please don't leave your stuff at the gym anymore. I can't be expected to wash this stuff every time. But I will say this, guys, that's something I didn't know going into owning my own martial arts academy. You are going to get tons of water bottles, tons of just random gear left behind. It's amazing. People do not check their gear over before they leave, and this is just part of it. So you can do your part and help your professor by just checking your bag and making sure you don't leave shit at the gym. If you leave something at the gym, message your instructor or whoever is running class and apologize and say it won't happen again, and don't let it happen again. Okay. Do not leave a mess behind. Try to leave the gym in a better condition than when you arrived. Okay. And then we already talked about the staff and the ringworm, and, seek a professional or ask one of your training partners if you think you have something. If you have a rash or a ring or something on your skin, don't ignore it, because if your teammates see it and you're on the mats, basically practice has to stop. It should just stop, but the mats need to be cleaned. And in an ideal world, everyone would shower and get into new gear before they could train again. Okay. So like, it's just going to be really bad for you if you bring staph or ringworm into a gym. It's going to be hard for people to forgive you, or at least for them to not think you're a dumb asshole. Okay. Let's talk about letting your body acclimatize to training. So first of all, you'll always be sore. So just understand that. Try to get that through your head that you're going to wake up sore when you train multiple times a week. Put an emphasis on recovery and longevity. So letting your body heal, if you lift weights or you play hockey or play another sport, consider how that's going to conflict with your jiu-jitsu in terms of your recovery, and try and find a balance. Don't overdo it. Try and have somewhat of a stretch, or even like, there's other things you can do for recovery, breathing exercises, stretching, the ice baths, things like that. Do what you can to try and keep your body limber, even if you need to see a professional massage therapist. One thing I really love is the So Right. I use it on my glutes and totally fixed my back issues that I was having a couple of years ago. I recommend that to get into those tough muscle groups. Really prioritize longevity and know your limitations. So if your body's telling you, man, like I hurt myself, or I'm just really beat down, I cannot train today. If you know in your bones that you cannot train, then maybe you should take some rest and just study some tape, okay? Especially when you're new. I found when I was first getting started in grappling, there'd be times when my back would just like seize up. I'd be like, oh, I've overdone it. Like my body is not ready for that yet. I would give it a couple days and then it would be fine. And then over time, I guess those muscle groups developed and my back didn't seize up anymore. So I do believe that as a beginner, when you're grappling, your body will, it will take time to get used to the jiu-jitsu training, probably over a year, if I'm being totally honest, because you're moving your body in such weird new ways and every practice is different and there's so much pushing and pulling. It's natural that your body's going to get really jacked up. And so I think it's important to know your limitations, listen to yourself, listen to your body, be aware of your body type, and try to understand how that body type of yours will play. It will benefit you for certain systems and it will not benefit you for other systems. So if you have short legs, it's and a big midsection, it's going to be hard to do triangles, but you might be really, really good at arm bars, or you might be really good at top pressure, right? But maybe doing body triangles and front triangles and things like that might not be your best Tokui waza. All right, another thing, be grateful for any any training that you finish uninjured. And this is, I think, something that kind of takes experience to appreciate. Every practice that I'm finished uninjured, I almost say like a little prayer to the jiu-jitsu gods. I'm like, thank you for not blowing my knee out again. I'm so glad I don't need to do surgery and be on the shelf for 6 more months. When you're new, or especially if you're young, you don't really think about how at any time you could get injured. And this is the truth. The longer you do jiu-jitsu, you realize at any time I could get injured. I could step my foot on the mat wrong and twist my knee. I could get stacked and hurt my back or hurt my neck, or, I could fall on my shoulder and break it. These are things that have happened to me. So it's like, it takes experience, and you kind of don't really know what can happen until it happens. And so that's why the younger, newer athletes kind of are more reckless with their movements. Whereas the more experienced athletes, they're more controlled, more conservative sometimes, and try to just be safe because they understand the consequences of injuries, because they've sustained enough injuries to know about these so-called consequences. So, every practice I'm always grateful after when I'm not injured. I'm just like, wow, that went really well. Thank God, tomorrow's another day, right? You start training enough every day, your chances of injury do nothing but go up. So it's important to kind of be grateful for those times, those victories. And just understand that as you gain experience, you can increase the amount that you train. All right. As your technique gets better, as your body adjusts to grappling, you might be able to train more. You might be able to train harder. You might be able to add weight training, different things, but don't do it all at once. Don't burn yourself out. Try to create a routine, if it's hard for you to get to jiu-jitsu every week, try and say, okay, these are the days I'm going to jiu-jitsu. These are the days I'm going to commit myself to jiu-jitsu. I'm going to stretch this many days, and I'm going to do 1 day of active recovery in between, something like that. Always try and have a routine, because that is going to help you in the long run maintain something that you have to dedicate a lot of time to. Also, make sure that you're getting enough recovery with sleep and a proper diet. I'm not going to tell you what a good diet is. If you listen to my autoimmune episode, you know that my diet is probably very rare compared to other people's diets. What I consider a good diet is different from what you might consider a good diet, whatever that works for you. Just make sure you're getting enough protein and get your blood work done every now and then. Make sure that you're not deficient in any areas, and try and prioritize sleep, because that is a huge part of retaining knowledge, and it's a huge part for recovering your body. Man, we're going way over time here, so I'm going to try and wrap this up quick. Last thing, do not think you are not learning because it's hard. Okay, it's supposed to be hard. After every class, try and reflect on things you did well and things you didn't do well. Okay, if you keep getting fucked up by the same person doing the same move, ask yourself, why is that happening? Try to recall the previous lesson before your next class. So if I'm going to go train tomorrow night, I'm going to think, what did we do tonight? Right? Or if I was going to train today, I should say, what did I do yesterday in class? What was the lesson? Try to recall it. And that way you're interleaving. You're kind of learning multiple things at the same time. Scientifically proven to increase memory, knowledge retention, and just to increase skill acquisition. And also appreciate the difficult training. If you have people that really push you in the gym, you feel like, man, I'm just not getting better. This training is so hard. Every time I roll someone, anyone here fucks me up. Why is that? Well, have you considered that all of your training partners are very good? That is a really good thing. Maybe if you're not used to investing in loss and you want to feel that quick gratification immediately, you might ask yourself, why am I losing all these rolls? Why can't I seem to make things work in the training room? However, you'll realize that that's actually a blessing, because if you have really high level training partners, after a couple of years, you realize, oh, this is a great place to train. There's always people pushing me. People are good at all levels. That's the type of place I would recommend you train at. Okay. If you're a beginner and you're beating everyone up, that gym probably sucks and you shouldn't train there. Okay, so now I'd like to just quickly talk about one new thing that I learned this week. So we're about 2 months into the ecological approach. If you've been following along in the online academy, I've been documenting all of the games that we've been doing. If you don't know what the ecological approach is, just check out the previous episode, episode 11 with Greg Souders. We talk about his ecological approach, basically how to learn under that method. He doesn't like to teach techniques. He likes to teach situations based around certain goals or constraints. So he builds games and that's how they build skills. Now, I shouldn't say he doesn't teach techniques, because he says he does teach techniques. He just doesn't teach techniques how traditional jiu-jitsu schools would teach them. So for me, I have found that I think the best thing for me and my team is a balance of both. I like to show techniques. For example, if I show a game, I show, okay, these are some things you can do from this position. Here's some things you shouldn't do, or what I'd recommend you don't do, because there's certain dangers associated with this. And now we're going to target spar the position and play a couple games based around the position. So it's more of a balanced approach, I think, rather than just the hour is 5 games, each person gets 3 minutes. Go. You know what I mean? So I think that it's healthy to find a balance. And that's one thing that I've really learned over the last 2 months is too much games. People get exhausted. They want to leave early. I try and tell them to go a little bit lighter, but again, it's difficult because it's a new style of training. And then not enough games. You don't really get enough training under live resistance in these specific situations. So in my opinion, ecological approach is great, but I've also had great results showing techniques as well as it, as well as the ecological games. And then I like to combine the two of them. Okay, that's sort of my findings after 2 months of using this approach. Either way, though, I think it's good to show technique, to give the direction and the strategy, and then I think use the ecological approach to hammer that technique home and to really get a lot of reps under realistic resistance in those particular positions. So as far as like programming the athlete to learn the new material and to be able to use the material immediately, I think there's no real better way than the ecological approach. What am I doing next? IBJJF Portland, that's going to be next weekend. So when you hear this episode, it's going to be on Wednesday. It's going to be that week on Sunday this time, not Saturday. I'm signed up for the middleweight, even though I'm a small middleweight. I'm signed up for no-gi adult because I want to do heel hooks, and I'm going to do masters in the gi because I'm not very good in the gi. Okay, just being honest. My gi game needs work. But yeah, I'm excited for that competition. And then after that, in 2 months after that, we're going to be doing ADCC Vancouver Open and followed by Masters Worlds and Jiu Jitsu Con the next week after the ADCC Open Vancouver. So I'm already in camp for these tournaments. I'm pretty much always in camp whenever I'm healthy. I'm always getting my ass on the assault bike and trying to think about the competition and whatnot. And yeah, that's what happens when you just train every day. You're just always in camp. Okay, I would like to just read a quote here from one Mr. Vincent Van Gogh, the famous Dutch artist. This has to do with, beginner's mind, starting something new, all that good stuff. The quote is, "What would life be if we had no courage to attempt anything?" What would life be if we had no courage to attempt anything? By Vincent Van Gogh. And I think that that's such a great quote because trying something new takes courage. It takes, you have to put your ego aside to some degree because you're going to suck at something, right? Like jiu-jitsu is like a language, right? You go into a room and we're trying to learn, we're trying to speak a language to each other, except I'm brand new. I don't know what the fuck you're saying to me. And you're trying to talk to me and I can't respond to you, but I have to because I'm in this conversation with you. And if I can't respond to you, I get choked out or I get armbarred, right? So it's not easy to go into these situations. Just understand that if you are a beginner doing jiu-jitsu, you're already doing a lot more than many other people out there ever do in terms of testing themselves mentally or physically. Okay, this is it's still kind of a niche sport. It's becoming mainstream, but those who do it know how difficult it is and how beneficial it is. And if you drag your ass to the gym and you get on those mats, I already tip my hat to you because it's not easy. Just understand that it does get easier. A couple years go down the road and all of a sudden, hey, I got a couple systems going. Hey, I have a Tokui waza. I know what moves I like to do. I know how I can get from this system to another system. Things get easier. So remember in life, if you do not attempt anything, you don't have the courage to attempt anything, you probably didn't do anything worth living for. At least that's how I look at it. And I appreciate that quote from Mr. Vincent Van Gogh. All right, guys, thank you for the show. I've gone way over time. That was episode 12, BJJ for Beginners. Again, if you want to contact or support the show, please check the show notes at the bottom. I'm not going to repeat it. Thanks for joining me today, guys. Remember, the Essential Jiu Jitsu podcast is everything you need to know about Jiu Jitsu. I'll see you guys later. Bye.